Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about a live record from HammerFall live Against the World out October 23rd on Napalm Records. The album has 20 songs and these are the band's greatest hits. This is really a greatest hits recorded live. I feel like that was the idea behind it and definitely came across that way to me. Now, I'm normally not a huge fan of live recordings. In the past, there's really been only perhaps a handful of live albums that I really gravitated towards. I just never felt connected to them. I don't feel the connection between myself and a live album. There's something missing that you get from seeing the actual performance in person and then listening to the album. So I always try to stay away from it. But considering everything that is happening right now and the inability to attend shows, well, there's basically no shows in North America happening at this moment. And I was supposed to see HammerFall this past September. They were coming back to North America as the headliners. They were here with Sabaton in last year, 2019. So I was really excited of seeing them play a larger set, a longer set, perhaps 20 songs. And I didn't get that chance. So this is the best next thing for those of you that either have never seen HammerFall live or have seen them live and missed their last tour because of everything that is happening. I went in it expecting a really fun DVD, a really fun performance, but at the same time in a very professional manner, produced and recorded in a very professional way. I honestly don't expect anything less from HammerFall. Having seen them live before, I kind of had an idea of what the performance would be like, but knowing that you're going to go on stage and you're going to be recording the performance, that perhaps puts a little extra step on you, and it drives everything that is happening on that special night, on that special occasion. And that's exactly what you're going to get from this recording. I felt from a video perspective, they gave you a lot of different camera angles. From the crowd, from behind the crowd, from the sides of the stage, on the stage, from the pit, from the drum perspective, behind the drum kit, besides the drum kit, close-ups to the hands of the guitar players as they're playing the solos, close-ups of the band members throughout the performance. There's just a lot of different camera angles to go around on this performance. So from that perspective, is very fluid because they also did a great job editing and cutting very quickly from one angle to the other. So you really don't get this stale idea that you're watching from one camera from a very long period of time, moving to another camera, then coming back to that same camera, and starts to become a little bit monotonous and repetitive. There's nothing really fresh, and it doesn't play well necessarily with the music that you're listening. And when you're listening to HammerFall, you're listening to songs that are pedal to the metal for the most part, high energy, high octane, and you need the camera angles and you need the editing of the video to kind of match that same dynamic, to be very fluid, to move from one point to the other. But overall, I really enjoyed the availability of angles, the availability of options. Really important for me to get the perspectives of the drummer, either the drummer facing the crowd or shots close to the drummer during certain parts. To me, that was an added value because I really like that perspective. It's a much different perspective that me as a fan get when I go to see a show. But I also enjoy the close-ups during the solos. It's really an important aspect. We're not talking about a pop band here, we're talking about a heavy metal band. And the solos is a huge part of how they construct their songs and how their songs feel and sound. So getting those close-ups to the hands and you can see the solo being played adds a different dynamic, because once again, it's not something that you necessarily get to see during a live performance. Some of the further away shots, or not the close-ups but the angle shots, those are perspectives that you get from the audience yourself when you're at a show. But those close-ups add a different element. It bring you closer to the action. It give you a different perspective. So I enjoyed the dynamic behind the cinematography of this DVD. It was really fluid, moving from one to the other, and that, in my opinion, really added intensity, it added motion, it added power to the overall performance, to the overall experience of watching DVD. I also enjoy the beginning because they give you a little bit of the behind the scenes of everything that led up to the actual band coming on stage. How the stage was set up, you see the roadies moving things around, you see the guys backstage practicing, signing a vinyl, signing CDs, things of that nature. Really gives you a glimpse of what goes on before the lights come on and the show starts. I think that's a really neat thing. More and more, we as fans want to see a little bit of what's behind the curtain. So starting off the DVD with that, to me, was a really interesting point, and it added a little bit of an anticipation for what was coming. You could feel like the band was getting ready, and you could see them getting ready, and it builds anticipation to the actual performance. I also want to say, David the drummer, best t-shirt ever. Wish You Were Beer. I laughed so hard when I saw his t-shirt. Like, I had to take like a double take. Like, is it Wish You Were Here or Wish You Were Beer? Is Wish You Were Beer? I couldn't stop laughing. Every time they had a close-up to him and you could see the shirt, I would giggle. Like, really funny shirt. And it really made my day, and it really shows you what kind of band they are, and how much fun they're having on stage, and how much fun they were having when they recorded this show. Moving on to the audio, I really enjoyed the audio experience for this recording. They really allowed every element to have its place, to have its time, and it's not one of those recordings where there's one element that overshadows the other. More often than not is the guitars overshadowing everything else, and the vocals kind of get hidden into the mix, and that takes a little bit away from the experience, because that's also something that normally happens when you're at a show. Depending on where you're sitting, the audio experience is completely different. If you're in the front row, center, or if you're in the front row to one of the sides, or if you're in the back, depending on where you are in the venue, and depending on the venue, your sound experience is going to be very different from person to person. But in the live recording, I really want to get as close as possible to a studio quality, but having that live sound, that live experience with everything that goes with it, mistakes and everything else. Sound of the crowd, everything needs to be there. Now, one thing that wasn't a lot there was the sound of the crowd. There was very little of it throughout this DVD. It was really about the band's performance. I wish there was a little bit more of the crowd. There was moments where you could hear the crowd, because the crowd was really interacting with the band, with the performance of the band. So in those specific songs, in those specific moments, you could hear the presence of the crowd. But at some points, I would have liked to hear a little bit more of the crowd, to give me more of that feeling of being there in person and the experience that goes with it, without taking anything away from the quality of the recording and without taking anything away from the quality of the music itself. I know it's a hard balance to achieve, because you don't want the noise from the crowd to really overshadow the guitars, the bass, the drums, or the vocals. So it's a hard balance. You really want to create a live record that almost sounds like it's in the studio, but at the same time it captures the essence of that performance. So it's a hard thing to do. I just wish they had a little bit more of crowd volume throughout the DVD, and not just on certain songs that actually call for the audience to be present. And even in some of the songs that ask for the audience to be present, you couldn't really hear too much from them. I don't think there were many mics pointed towards the crowd in order to get it. So that's perhaps an oversight on the part of the team that recorded the DVD, and I felt like it took a little bit of the overall experience away. It flattened some tracks, and it took away from the bombastic element that you could have during a live performance, of having the crowd being part of that experience. Now, as far as fans are concerned, outside of the audio, I would have to say that the fan experience looked like a lot of fun. You saw people in the audience from a wide variety of ages, as old as my grandparents and as young as my niece. That shows you the type of fans that HammerFall has and the following that they have, generation after generation after generation. So from that perspective, that was really fun to watch. Young people, really young people in the front row, and at the same time, much older people in that front row. So you could see that this is a band that spans across so many generations and still connecting with new fans as much as they're connecting with their old fan base. So that was really interesting for me. It was really interesting to see that. The overall crowd was not super dynamic either. Most of them were just standing, watching, appreciating. But I think that comes a little bit with where the DVD is recorded. From country to country, from city to city, you're going to have different dynamics. You're going to have different type of crowd, different type of interaction with the band. But overall, I enjoyed that it was a live setting filled with people. Like, it was absolutely packed. When the shots got closer to the front row, you could see people were vibing, they were singing along, they were interacting with the band, they were definitely becoming part of the show themselves. When the shots were a little bit more further away, it was hard to see that same emotion, because it kind of got lost in the overall crowd. Not to say that it couldn't be happening, it's just not as visible from a viewer's perspective. Overall, this is a very fun DVD to watch. There are a few surprise tracks, there are a few surprises here and there throughout the 20 track experience. I had a lot of fun watching it. I felt that overall really captured the essence of the band. And like I said at the beginning of this review, I really feel like this is an album that is a greatest hits recorded live. So from that perspective, this is the way to go, because we've all heard the songs in the studio, so to get together a greatest hits album to me feels a little bit redundant. I'd rather watch a live DVD of that greatest hits performed on a one-night show with great pyro, great stage, and this one was a great stage with great pyro, really big setting. They were the headliners on this tour, so they had the stage all for themselves. They could do as big of a production as they wanted, and that's exactly what you're going to get. So to me, as a fan of HammerFall, and as a fan of metal who can't attend shows, this is the next best thing. It allows you to see and experience it again, and perhaps close your eyes and travel to that day if you were there, or at least imagine what could have been if you were there on that night watching HammerFall. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I really want to talk about 3 different songs on this experience, because I feel like these 3 songs kind of not overshadow, perhaps that's not a good word, but they kind of surpassed my expectations, and they really jumped to the forefront of all the 20 tracks, because all the 20 tracks are great, the performance is great across all 20 of them, but these 3 to me had a little bit of an extra vibe. And I want to start off with Hallowed Be My Name. Not every day, not on every tour they play this song. They included this track on this set list, and it was magnificent. The crowd performance with the band clapping, the warmth that was coming from the crowd really ignited the band, and vice versa. So this was a song that had a really perfect interaction between crowd and band, and like I said, not every day they performed this song live, so it was an absolute treat to see this song being performed on that stage and have that response from the fans and that interaction between the two of them. The next one is Second to One. I was really surprised. I forgot that this tour featured Battle Beast. So when this song started playing, immediately my mind was like, is Nora coming out? Is she doing a cameo? Because I completely forgot that during this European tour, Battle Beast was the opening band for HammerFall. And when it came time for Nora to sing, Nora pops out and she starts singing. This song is magnificent. This song is magnificent in the studio. Live with the two of them singing on stage, the beauty of the song, the warmth that comes from both of them, the duet is just outstanding. One of the highlights of this DVD is this performance. You watch this song and you have goosebumps. The two of them, magnificent track, magnificent duet. I love this track, and to see them together performing it on stage, man, I wish I had a chance to see this tour, this show, or any other show during this tour, because just to see this performance would have been worth it. The price of admission just for this song, definitely worth it. Last but not least, we make Sweden rock, second to last track on the night, and I love the light show. The light show with the Swedish flag colors on it, magnificent. It brings the song to life. It really energizes the track. It energizes the crowd, even though they were not playing in Sweden. It doesn't matter. When they played this song in Toronto, people were going mental. So this is a song that ignites the crowd. It doesn't matter where you're playing it. But when you have the stage presence, and when you have the production values that you have for this specific show, and you're able to do the light show with the Swedish flag colors moving around as you're playing Sweden rock, I think it hits the nail on the head 1,000 times. It nails it, and I loved it. It just made the song even bigger, even better, even more hooky, even more catchier. Just magnificent track that elevated watching it, and this is why I say watching the DVD versus listening to just the tracks really made this better, because you're able to see the light show, you're able to see everything that's happening on stage, and it takes you to a different place. You're not just listening to the song, now you're listening and visualizing and watching it for yourself, and you get lost within everything that is happening. I absolutely love this track, one of the highlights of this DVD. This is it, guys. HammerFall live Against the World, out October 23rd on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the DVD, on the tracks that they've released from this DVD. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.